All right, so today we're diving into something pretty intense.
Yeah.
Relocation,
Mm-hmm.
specifically for Nigerian families
Mm-hmm.
who are thinking about moving abroad.
Right.
And we're basing this whole deep dive on, well, one source,
Okay.
really. It's this social media post that's been making the rounds
Oh, I see.
by a guy named Leonardo Mediavi.
Interesting.
Now, this post is packed with advice, opinions, the whole 9 yards.
I bet.
And,
Yeah,
for a lot of Nigerians moving abroad, it's a huge dream.
absolutely.
But when you bring family into the mix,
Right.
things get a whole lot more
It's
complicated.
a whole other level.
Yeah, it really is. It's
Mhm.
way more than just packing boxes and booking flights.
Right.
You're talking emotions, hopes, potential for, big changes.
Upheaval, even.
Exactly.
And Medici, he dives right into that.
He does.
Yeah.
And his main argument, it kind of hits you right between the eyes.
Okay. What's that?
He's basically saying, don't move everyone at once, especially if you've got young kids. That's a pretty strong stance, don't you think?
It is bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to get why he's saying this,
Okay.
we got to look at what a lot of Nigerian families are aiming for.
Mhm.
Places like the UK, Canada, the US.
The land of opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Medici's saying that when you uproot the entire family,
Everyone at once.
yeah, especially with little ones,
Mm-hmm.
it can create this massive pressure cooker.
I see.
Financially, emotionally, you name it.
It makes sense.
And he's worried about families basically falling apart
Oh, wow.
under the strain of, settling in,
Yeah.
finding work, managing money,
It's a lot.
all while trying to help their kids adjust, too.
Right. The kids are going through it, too.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says something that's, well, bound to get people talking.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says, men
Mm-hmm.
are better equipped to handle that initial move.
How so?
He claims they've got a stronger survival instinct,
Okay.
and they're more logical.
So he's suggesting that, like, men should go first, almost like scouts.
Yeah, sort of.
Hmm.
I mean, some people are going to hear that and,
Not be happy.
yeah, think it's outdated, offensive. Even others might agree with him.
It's definitely going to spark some debate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder
What's that?
what happens when you send the men ahead.
Right.
Not just for them, but for the whole family.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And this leads us to what Medici calls his staggered relocation strategy.
Okay, what's that all about?
He suggests sending the wife and kids first.
Oh, interesting.
Let them get settled, then the husband follows.
Huh.
At first glance, it sounds like it could take some pressure off,
Yeah, maybe.
but I'm sure it creates a whole other set of challenges.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right.
You got to think about the emotional side of things.
Exactly.
Being apart for so long, that can put a strain on a relationship.
It's tough.
And what about the family dynamic?
Yeah, how does that shift?
It throws everything off balance, potentially.
Definitely something to consider.
And then there's the money part of it.
Uh-huh.
Supporting two households, that's a huge financial burden.
Yeah, it is.
And legally, it can get complicated.
In what way?
Visas, making sure both parents have the right paperwork.
All that red tape.
Exactly.
Plus, Medici is really specific about moving with kids under 16.
Why that age, do you think?
That's where he brings up this idea of loss.
Loss.
Yeah.
How so?
He uses some pretty strong words.
Like what?
He talks about families losing everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Their family, their lives, even ending up in jail.
Whoa.
I know it sounds extreme,
It does.
but he's really trying to drive home the point that things can go really wrong.
If you don't plan carefully.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And then he brings up this example of Nigerians in the UK.
Okay.
He says they're slumping and dying.
Wow. That's powerful imagery.
Yeah. And he doesn't really explain what he means by that.
So it's open to interpretation. Could be talking about health issues,
Yeah, maybe
the stress, the pressure,
could be financial struggles too.
feeling trapped, unable to provide for their families.
Right.
It's heavy stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
But then he says something that kind of throws a curveball.
What's that?
He says, I'm not saying Nigeria is better,
Okay.
just that it's easier to adjust there.
Interesting.
What do you make of that?
I think he's acknowledging that Nigeria has its own problems, but
Yeah.
he's saying that the move itself, the transition, it's just harder when you're in a whole new country.
Dealing with different cultures, languages.
Maybe even facing discrimination.
It's like everything's amplified.
Exactly.
And that makes adjusting that much harder.
Right. So it's more about managing the intensity of the transition itself.
Yeah, I think so.
It makes sense.
And, the only exception he makes to his whole don't move everyone at once rule
What's that?
is for couples without kids.
Oh, interesting.
He says they have a much smoother time adapting.
Makes you realize how much kids change the equation.
Oh, absolutely.
Their needs, how well they adapt.
It all plays a part.
A huge part.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's this. Relocating, it's a massive decision.
Life-changing.
Exactly, and there are no easy answers.
Medici's advice, it might be controversial,
Sure.
but it forces us to really think about what could go wrong.
To plan carefully.
Yeah, he's not giving us a roadmap,
More like a warning.
a big flashing warning sign.
Right.
So if you're thinking about moving abroad,
Remember, there's no one right way to do it.
it's about figuring out what works best for you.
For your family, your situation.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So as you weigh this huge decision,
Yeah.
think about how you can prepare yourself,
In your family.
not just for the practical stuff,
The logistics.
right, but for the emotional and cultural changes too.
It's a whole new world.